When my sister-in-law came back from her trip overseas, she hurried to our house. She tried to take my daughter, who was almost 1 year old. She thanked me for taking care of her daughter for a year. I got worried and stopped her, explaining that the child was actually mine. But she didn't seem to understand. I left her in the yard. Then she said something shocking that scared me. She realized I wasn't joking, and her face turned pale. This was the start of a big problem caused by my sister-in-law. It all began a year and a half ago when my 25-year-old sister-in-law, Megan, suddenly came back to her parents' house with a baby. My husband had been suddenly moved abroad. I'm really worried about raising our little one in a foreign country. Everything is so unfamiliar. Plus, I just found out I'm pregnant. I hope our kids can be friends. If Kristen's child is anything like her, they'll be adorable together. It feels weird to think I'll be friends with my sister-in-law, Megan. She's outgoing and talks to me easily, even though I'm 2 years older. It makes me think we'll get along well. After I gave birth, I lived in a separate house with my 30-year-old husband. Megan moved in with her parents, which was nice because their house was close by. I thought we'd all get along well. But soon, I realized I was being naive. Once Megan moved back in with her parents, she started showing her true colors. "Sorry, Kristen, I have an urgent matter and can't take care of my child. Can you look after her?" Megan asked one day. "Sure, but what happened?" I replied. "My dad threw out his back, and I need to buy some patches for him," she said. Feeling sorry for her, I gladly took care of her baby, but this became a regular thing. Megan kept finding reasons to leave her child with me, and that wasn't the only problem. "Sorry, I need you to look after my child again today," Megan said another day. "Megan, you're lying to me, aren't you?" I confronted her. "What? Why would you say that?" she replied, sounding shocked. "Your dad has never had a bad back in his life." Did I say that? Remember, she stumbled over her words, unable to keep her lies straight. But that wasn't all. A neighbor said they saw her out and about in town when she was supposed to be with her child. Huh. Who ratted me out? Megan tried to deflect. "No, it must have been someone who looked like me." "Who do you believe, that old lady or your own sister-in-law?" she pleaded. Despite her attempts to sway me, I wasn't fooled. "Just take care of your own child." "I won't be helping you anymore," I said firmly. "Why would you do that? That's so mean of you," I exclaimed as Megan threw a tantrum like a child. But then she suddenly stopped, as if she had an idea. "Fine, I'll make you want to take care of my child on your own," she declared. "What do you mean?" I asked, puzzled. Without answering, she smirked, picked up the baby, and left our house, leaving me feeling uneasy. I consulted with my husband and in-laws to warn them about Megan's behavior, but it was like talking to a wall. She showed no signs of remorse or understanding. Instead, she concocted a plan. One afternoon, while I was dozing on the couch with my pregnant belly, I heard a baby crying. At first, I thought it was from a neighbor's house, but it sounded too close. As I pondered, my phone rang. "Hello, this is Kristen," I answered. "Oh, hey, Kristen. Please take care of my child," Megan said casually. "What? Didn't I tell you last time that I won't be taking care of your child anymore?" I replied, getting frustrated. Megan laughed, finding my response amusing. "It's too late. I already left my child at your doorstep a while ago." Rushing to the door, I found a baby crying on my doorstep. "Megan, what are you thinking?" I shouted. "Well, you were being mean, so I had no choice," Megan replied gleefully, as if she had pulled off a prank. "I told you, didn't I? I'd make you want to take care of my child. You wouldn't leave a baby on the doorstep, right?" "Stop joking. Where are you now?" I demanded. "Guess, though I suppose it's hard for you to go out since you're pregnant?" Megan teased, then abruptly hung up. My attempts to call her back were met with a turned-off phone. Despite my protests, when she finally returned in the evening, my words fell on deaf ears. This scenario repeated several times until I reluctantly began to check the doorstep and take the baby whenever Megan called. Megan unapologetically claimed she was doing me a favor by giving me practice for my upcoming childbirth, expecting gratitude in return. "I'm not asking for thanks, but isn't there something to be said about attitude?" she remarked. I grew increasingly irritated and stressed by her behavior. This continued for 6 months until an incident occurred a year ago. Going abroad for a bit. That note was all Megan left before disappearing suddenly. No one knew where she went. She disappeared suddenly, but it wasn't shocking, considering her history of impromptu trips funded by her part-time job earnings. My husband casually mentioned, "It's nothing new. She probably went to see her husband since he was transferred overseas." We assumed she took her baby to meet its father. Our family, caught up in our own turmoil, hardly spoke of Megan. Shortly before her disappearance, I went into labor 2 weeks early and was rushed to the hospital, unprepared for the sudden birth of our beloved daughter. In the chaos of an unexpected delivery and adjusting to new parenthood, conversations about Megan faded. Before we knew it, a year had passed since her departure. As my daughter's first birthday approached, our peaceful life was once again disrupted by Megan. "I'm back," her familiar voice echoed from the unlocked front door. "What? Megan, you're back from overseas?" I asked in surprise. Ignoring my words, she walked straight to my daughter. "Thanks for taking care of my daughter for a year," she said, then abruptly attempted to take my child away. "Hey, what are you doing to my child?" I exclaimed as I quickly took her back. Megan frowned in confusion. "Come on, just because you've had her for a year doesn't mean you get to act all motherly. This child is genuinely my daughter." Both of us were confused for a while. "Megan, didn't you take your own child with you overseas?" I asked. "What are you talking about? I left her in your yard," she replied. It seemed our conversation was missing each other, but I felt something terrible might be happening. "You said you left a child for a year when you went abroad. You left her in my yard, and that's what I've been saying. At that time, I had just given birth to this child and was hospitalized due to poor health, so I really don't know where your child is now." Shocked by the revelation, Megan's face turned pale as she stuttered in disbelief. "This is serious. We need to call the police." But as I reached for my phone, Megan grabbed my arm with trembling hands. "Wait, please don't call the police." "But how can we not?" I asked. "Please, I'll be in huge trouble if you do," Megan pleaded, seeming terrified. Sensing the gravity of the situation, I decided to inform our family instead. I called our in-laws and my husband to explain the situation. However, when I turned around after ending the call, Megan was nowhere to be seen. I couldn't believe she ran away the moment I looked away. How irresponsible can she be? That was the moment my anger towards Megan exploded. After receiving my call, my husband and in-laws gathered at our house. According to my husband, there indeed had been a baby in the yard while I was giving birth and hospitalized. He had little involvement with Megan's child and assumed she had taken the baby abroad. So he contacted the police to take care of the unknown infant. With all the focus on our newborn, the memory of that incident had completely slipped our minds. Megan's child would have been about 1 or 2 years old by the time she returned. It's likely that Megan mistook my child for her own due to their close ages. After consulting with the police about the situation, we discovered the baby was at an orphanage, which was a relief. I decided to leave Megan's child's care to my husband and in-laws. What concerned me more was Megan's panic, which seemed unusual. That level of panic from Megan was not normal. There must be something more to this. My intuition proved correct when I decided to take a certain action. It seems we need to teach her a lesson. I had a trump card against Megan, which I hadn't been sure I'd ever use, but there was no need to hesitate now. I decided it was time to teach her a lesson. A week later, with everything prepared, I called Megan. After several rings, she hesitantly answered. "Megan, your child has been found. You can relax now. Come back home," I said. Believing my words, Megan casually arrived at our house and rang the doorbell. Phew, I was so worried. "Glad she's been found." She laughed carelessly as she entered our living room. but she was greeted by an unexpected sight. What the? Aaron and Ben, why are you guys here? Sitting on the sofa was Megan's husband, or rather, her ex-husband Aaron. And sitting on the floor was her affair partner Ben. Aaron frowned deeply at his ex-wife, glaring at her, while Ben looked on with a pitiable face, as if he was about to cry. This is bad. She turned to make her escape from our house, but my father-in-law, a large man, was standing guard at the entrance, blocking her way out. Consequently, Megan ended up sitting on the floor alongside her affair partner, Ben, receiving a lecture from my husband, her ex-husband, and our in-laws. Come on, it's fine now, isn't it? The child is safe, right? As Megan puffed out her cheeks in defiance, Aaron, with a chilly look, said, If you can't even take care of the child, then you should return the custody and the child support payments. When I contacted Aaron, he revealed that everything Megan had told us was utterly false. He had not been transferred overseas, and they had divorced due to her infidelity. However, during the divorce, Megan had forcefully taken custody of their child and had been receiving substantial child support payments from Aaron. Even when the infidelity comes from the custodial parent, they are still entitled to child support. This is why Megan desperately tried to prevent me from calling the police, fearing the consequences if it was discovered she wasn't actually taking care of their child. I can't pay back the child support, Megan pleaded with me, her voice trembling with fear. But you made me take care of the baby, didn't you? There's no escaping that, I replied. Don't make stuff up. Where's your proof? She screamed hysterically. I calmly showed her the footage from my phone. It showed Megan leaving the baby at our doorstep and walking away. What? When did you take this? She asked, her voice faltering. Since you started leaving your child on my doorstep, I installed a security camera for safety. It would be terrible if something happened to the baby, I explained. This footage proved she hadn't been fulfilling her parental duties. Wouldn't the child be happier being raised by Aaron? I asked. Megan bit her lip and growled lowly. Suddenly, she clung to Ben, who was sitting next to her, bursting into tears. Help me, Ben. Everyone's bullying me. However, Ben, who seemed to have only considered Megan a casual fling, gently pushed her away. Well, I have another family. You're betraying me too. Who do you think paid for our round-the-world cruise? So the child support went on a splurge around the world, huh? I remarked. Megan covered her mouth in shock, but the words she had let slip could not be taken back. So when you said you were going abroad for a year, you were actually on a world cruise with your lover, using up the child's support, and now you can't pay Aaron back? I asked incredulously. Yeah, so what? Is that so bad? Megan defiantly gave up. I didn't hold back my criticism. Then I'll have to call the police. Wait, please. I'm sorry, just forgive me. Megan finally showed remorse, sobbing, and repeatedly prostrating herself on the floor. However, I couldn't afford to be lenient. Just so you know, I won't forget how you've treated your child and me. You better reflect on your actions. After my firm statement, Megan was taken away by the police. She was arrested, and her daughter was returned to Aaron, who regained custody. Megan is now required to pay a monthly child support of $500 until the child comes of age. Cut off by my husband and in-laws, Megan faces a thorny path. Even if she gets out of jail, Ben too wasn't spared. His wife filed for divorce and demanded compensation. As for me, I'm living a harmonious life with my husband and our daughter. Every day is a joy and a new discovery as we watch our daughter grow.